Nope.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, and I'm sorry I missed the last commission meeting because I was in Greensboro, Georgia, for the American Board of Family Medicine Board of Directors meeting. But the following Friday, May the 8th, I was at City Hall where Mayor Garcetti launched the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and Chief Legal was there with me. And the following day was Fire Service Day, and that was a very busy day for me, at least. I attended the event at Fire Station 27, and then I went to the crisis response team graduation following that, and then I went to Fire Station 63 at Venice, and they had a great event there. And then actually I went to Fire Station 72 in Canoga Park, and unfortunately I think they may have all been out at that point because there were like 3 families there. In fact, I called Chief Terrazas to indicate that there were 3 families with, I don't know, about a dozen kids or whatever, and you know, they were looking around and what have you, and then, so I left that event, well, that non-event, and then went to Fire Station 88, and then I attended the Fire Academy graduation, and Chief Rideout had the greatest speech. It's going to be a hard act to follow, and then I also attended the Youth Academy graduation event. And parenthetically, I won't be able to make the next commission meeting because I'm going to be at the Charles Drew University graduation. And since I am associate dean there, I've got to attend.
Oh, very good. I agree with Commissioner Hart. It was a busy time for us. We had the Fire Service Day, and then we had Mother's Day. And the week just started rolling, it seemed, with lots of different activities. I did enjoy Fire Service Day as usual. I don't see Captain Kepner here, but Captain Kepner and I had a wonderful time going around the city, going from station to station. We went to 13, it's kind of mid-city. Then we went to the Palos Verdes area. Then we went to Venice, and we went to kind of southwest LA to 34. We had a really good visit. It was a great time seeing the community come in and visit to see what was going on in fire stations. The pancakes in Venice were wonderful. I don't know if they're as good as 27, but they were good. 27 has some really great pancakes too. But it was great seeing how many young people were at Venice. I mean, they had so many little kids. I had to keep watching to make sure I didn't trip over somebody. They do a lot of planning and activities. One of the things I particularly liked about that is they do a lot of outreach in various ways that I think might be replicated in some other places, the way they do their outreach. And they also had a woman who has been painting over there at Venice Building. She's done some outstanding artwork inside of the building, and I understand she's also doing Fire Station 5 now also, but she has some beautiful murals, and she's done tables and cutouts of all kinds, beautiful work in there. So it's so nice to see how the community adopts the fire station and will get in there and work. I think the business community came in and helped in Venice. In various areas, you saw different groups, community groups, helping in each of the stations, which was really good. I got to meet 2 honorary fire chiefs, which was very nice. I actually didn't know we had them until this year. But one young man who's been raising money and doing a lot of fantastic things for the fire department, and then another man from the Watts area who also has been working very well with the South Bureau. Let me see what else happened in those stations. I saw so many things. But it was just good getting out there and meeting the firefighters in the various stations and touring the stations. Just everyone is all different. At Fire Station 13, we had the CERT team was there, and I was impressed with the number of people there, and they're trying to recruit the work they were doing. They had piñatas over there, so they had every station had something that was different, but the kids really enjoyed it. I also attended the graduation for the 29 firefighters, and I'm happy just to have more firefighters in the field. It looks like an impressive group of young people who are ready to go. And I saw a really tall one there. Is the coach here for the basketball team? We need to get him. Add him to our team, because I think his height will just bring us some points. But otherwise, and then we had the families. I believe there were more families at this graduation than there were at the other graduation, and we had more graduates. But it was an impressive group. The parents were just very, very excited, and they brought relatives from everywhere. I met people from Kansas and all kinds of out-of-state places who came to watch their nephew or grandchild become a firefighter, and they were just overjoyed. You could see it with the people who were taking the pictures, and it was just wonderful to see them so excited, and they should be. Because it is a great accomplishment, knowing how many people applied and how many people actually graduated. So that was an exciting week. I look forward to the weeks to come.
I attended the graduation as well as the one for my daughter, so there was two good graduations. I was a little out of pocket during the last few weeks. My daughter graduated, so I went back to Boston, so I missed Fire Service Day, which I generally have always really enjoyed participating in. So forgive me for that, but I was in Boston, and I have 1 down and 3 to go, which is a nice feeling. And then also the graduation, where I think we were almost all there, was an impressive event. And I, too, want to commend Chief Rideout for his parsimonious speech during the course of that. But I'm usually around a little more than I have been the last few weeks, but will be in the future, doing some dinners at a few fire stations the next few weeks. So looking forward to seeing some of those out there.
Okay. So moving on to item 2, report of the fire chief.
Thank you, Madam President. On May 6th, we had our civilian recognition luncheon at Tay's Restaurant, and our civilians of the year were Mario Salazar from Recruit Training, Zach Booz from Firestat, and Taryn King from the shops. We had a capacity crowd at Tay's. It was a very well attended, and each person had significant support from their place of where they worked. May 9th, as you said, was a busy day. I hit 5 fire stations. I went to 27. I started the day there with Chief Castro, and we presented the honorary fire chief with an award. Then I went to the Mayor's Crisis Response Team graduation. I saw Dr. Hara there. From there, we went to Fire Station 88. I saw Chief Arbuthnot. We made some presentations there. And then on the way to 69th, we stopped by Fire Station 99, and it took a little while because so much traffic from people going to the station for Fire Service Day. And on the freeway to 88s, now that I think about it, we were looking at 83s, 87s, 86s, capacity crowd from the freeway. So Fire Service Day truly is our most significant community relations day. I wasn't done. I went to 69s, where I met the young man, the youngest person ever to be awarded honorary fire chief, 14 years old. Did some great things already. While I was there, I met the president of the Clippers, and I started lobbying for Blake Griffith to be on our team next year to play PD. She offered her coach. I said, I need the player. I don't need the coach.
You might need the coach.
Maybe the coach too. And then from there, we went to Fire Station 34. I met up with Chief Palacios. We pulled up there. They blocked the entire street from end to end. And I wondered how the neighborhood reacted to that. But the neighbors were there. They love it. So very positive event there. On Fire Service Day, sometimes we forget how significant a day that is. And as I reflected upon that day, my first exposure to the Los Angeles Fire Department when I was 8, my dad took me to Old Boat 2 on Terminal Island. And that was my first interaction, and it planted the seed. And everywhere I went that day, I reminded the kids there, you never know, this might be the thing that causes you to become a firefighter. Both men and women, boys and girls. Can't forget that. After that, May 14th, as you said, we had the Recruit Academy class. Excellent demonstration of the skills of our people. It really is a great show. Chief Rideout, I have to commend your speech once again. I'll have to see if I can do that next time. Expedite the whole process. Family was very proud, very emotional. I like the process where you allow the members to pick who puts the badge on their chest. And I was up close, and I could see all the tears flowing and the pride that the parents and the wives and the girlfriends and the kids had in the candidate. So that was a big day for us. May 16th, I went to the Harbor Youth Fire Academy graduation. And the thing that's significant there, 50% are female, 50% are male. And that's a weekend-only program, 7 consecutive Saturdays. Chief Crowley is the supporter and organizer of that particular one. A lot of pride in the community. And what we saw was a scaled-down version of what we'd seen on Thursday. There wasn't the fires and all the other crashing cars, but the basic fundamental skills were on display by the kids who'd been there for 6 previous Saturdays. So I think that's a great introduction to the fire department. Maybe we planted the seed with some of those kids to become future firefighters. So it was a busy last 2 weeks. Very positive things went on with the fire department.
So moving on to 2B, which is verbal report by the department on significant incidents for May 6th through May 19th.
Good morning, Madam President, Commissioners, Chief Terrazas, and Council. We have 2 significant incidents to report. Both occurred in Operations West Bureau. Beginning with May 11th, we had a report of a commuter jet inbound from LAX out of Monterey with 43 souls on board. And the initial report was that the left landing gear was not engaged at all. The pilot did an initial flyby of the air control tower, and it was confirmed that the landing gear was not down. Traditionally, it's the pilot's call of when to land, and the pilot said that he wanted to land as quick as possible. They put out an alert call. We had resources in place, and the plane ultimately landed with the landing gear not engaged on the left side. The left wing made contact with the runway and slid for about 600 yards. We had our crash rigs on scene. They followed to the point they actually engage and follow as it's sliding, and are prepared to put the foam down and do any rescue measures necessary. Fortunately, there was no fuel rupture and no resulting fire. All 43 people were evacuated safely from the plane after it stopped, were momentarily assessed for any medical issues, and then moved to a safe location in the terminal. So it had a safe conclusion. Chief Ulrich, who is the assistant chief that works as a out of LAWA, was on scene as the incident commander responded. He is on an office right next to the runway, and provided great oversight for what could have been a catastrophe, but it was really a success. There are some areas that we wanted to move forward with LAWA in terms of maybe getting a little bit more time to, because we do have the ability. Like yesterday, there was another report of a plane issue, and the plane actually circled over the ocean and burned off some fuel before they landed, which allows us to get sufficient resources in time. But it was a successful conclusion. Saturday the 16th, about noon, there was a DWP van digging in the Hollywood area. They had a sign that directed them to a location where it would be safe to dig, and the sign was incorrectly positioned, and the backhoe severed a 6-inch natural gas line that was contain natural gas at about 30 pounds per square inch. A 6-inch gas line is a large line. The initial issue obviously is flammable gas leaking through an occupied neighborhood. LAFD Resources responded and quickly evacuated 2 apartment houses that were proximate to the leak. Ultimately, we would evacuate 4. We established a perimeter. We instilled multiple monitoring sources to monitor the toxicity and the concentration of the product, and that determined the evacuation zone. We were initially given a 4-hour time to shut it off. It ended up being almost 16 hours before we shut off. We developed a unified command with the gas company, Emergency Management Department, LAFD, and LAPD. Emergency Management Department came out and they determined the appropriate pre-identified shelter area, which was ADA compliant. They married up with the Red Cross. We ultimately had about 100 people at the shelter. Initially, everybody left, but then they came back at that predetermined promised time for shutdown, and it was not available. They ended up 84 people ended up spending the night in the shelter. The cots were provided by the Red Cross, and breakfasts were provided the next morning. About 4:46 a.m., the threat was abated by the gas line being shut off. We had MTA buses shuttle the people back to their apartment house, and they were able to rehouse. So by that morning, everything was back to normal, and it was really a successful unified command with the members from the LAFD and the other stakeholders. There are several decisions that had to be made throughout the day. One was to determine whether or not it's appropriate to allow the gas company this long of a period to shut it off, because they're concerned if they shut it off immediately, there were 10,000 residents that would be without gas, and more importantly, the problem of reconnecting their supply and lighting pilot lights would have been a huge deal. And that's a judgment decision that ultimately was the fire department's call based on threat or lack thereof to the residents. And they made a real great decision. There was another issue in the middle of the night in that the shoring was not compliant with safety standards, meaning they had people in a ditch that was not properly shored in the trench. And they stopped the operation, and we got one of our technical safety officers from our USAR specialist unit that supervised that process throughout its duration. So another successful but nevertheless significant event that our members were on scene for about 16 hours. Okay, questions? Thank you.
Oh, sorry. So moving on to verbal report by the medical director.
Morning, Commissioners, Fire Chief, City Attorney. Significant medical incidents since our last meeting. Yesterday, in Fire Station 42's first in, there was an auto versus pedestrian with an infant in a stroller, a 13-month-old, a 3-year-old, and the grandmother struck at a crosswalk. All transported to USC Medical Center. Fortunately, all expected to survive. Also of note, on the 14th, members of Fire Station 60 had just completed their tactical EMS training. Part of that training is we're distributing new equipment, hemostatic gauze, which has been proven to be life-saving through the military experience over the last 10 years, along with expanded use of tourniquets. And right after the training, they went on an individual with an arterial bleed that was life-threatening. The individual was found in profound shock, and members of Fire Station 60 were able to apply the tools they had just received and just learned how to utilize to pack the wound with the hemostatic gauze and apply a combat application tourniquet and save this individual's life. So it was quite gratifying that the training they had just received, new equipment, immediately resulted in a life being saved. And also, as a follow-up to the data I presented last meeting, in the last 2 weeks, we've had 39 shootings, of which six proved to be fatal. That concludes my report for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on to presentations.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Daniel Curry. I'm Public Information Officer for the department. The Tiered Dispatch System, or TDS, began development in February of 2014. In 10 short months, a core group of dispatchers, firefighters, medical personnel, and civilians brought a robust, built-from-scratch dispatch system online. Members put family, vacations, and personal obligations on hold, dedicating countless hours to ensuring the success of TDS. And what were the goals of TDS? Reduce call processing time, provide bystander CPR faster, reduce the number of questions asked, and dispatch the correct resources faster. How did the group being honored today do this? First, they looked at 26 dispatch centers throughout the United States and Canada, including 12 on-site visits. They evaluated protocols and dispatch and quality improvement software and processes. They designed and developed a medically validated dispatch interrogation system, dispatch protocols, emergency instructions, and general care instructions for dispatcher-directed patient care before LAFD arrival. They designed and developed dispatch software capable of processing 911 calls for assistance and interfacing with computer-aided dispatch, or CAD, to initiate the dispatch of appropriate resources. They designed and implemented a QI process, including procedures to evaluate, rating criteria, evaluation software, and 911 phone audio recorders. They developed over 600 new CAD codes, algorithms, and dispatch determinants, and updated CAD to reflect the needs of this new system. They designed, developed, wrote, printed, and distributed over 100 sets of dispatch card sets for the dispatch floor, all written in multiple languages. They developed a training curriculum, including written lecture material, PowerPoint presentations, grading criteria, and certification process. Over 100 dispatchers were taught and certified to use TDS in approximately 1 month. They reviewed and wrote over 80 emergency medical dispatch policies and procedures. And finally, they developed and prepared a public media relations plan to address potential issues. By any measure, TDS is a success story. It continues to improve as feedback from dispatchers and field personnel fine-tune the dispatch algorithms. And it was built by the people in this room, entirely from scratch. This morning, we salute them for being partners and innovators in public safety. Truly, they have made the city of Los Angeles a safer place. And we would be remiss if we didn't stop to honor all of our talented dispatchers assigned to Metro Fire Communications, who excel in what many consider one of the most highly stressful occupations. Also, we want to acknowledge and give special thanks to the following individuals who assisted in the development of TDS. Senior Systems Analyst Oscar Barrera, Programmer Analyst Wang Pham, Chief Management Analyst Salvador Martinez, Senior Management Analyst Avo Davidian, Senior Management Analyst William Jones, and TDS Software Engineer Mike Baker. Now at this time I would like to call up the following individuals to receive special recognition before the Fire Commission. If you would line up along the west wall, please. Medical Director Dr. Mark Eckstein, Project Manager Captain 1 Ron Myers, Captain 1 Timothy Werfel, Captain 1 Gail Manning, Captain 1 Linda Hughes, Firefighter Paramedic Matthew Morocco, Firefighter Paramedic EMD Robert Ashley, Firefighter Paramedic John Flores, Firefighter EMD Cecil Manresa, Firefighter EMD Ricardo Molina, Firefighter Paramedic Gregory Loya, Firefighter Paramedic Douglas Johnson, and EMS Fellow Dr. Stephen Sanko. And I will just read the presentation to you all. On behalf of the members of the Los Angeles Fire Department, we extend our gratitude to you for your commitment to the development of the Los Angeles Fire Department tiered dispatch system. Your hard work and extensive hours have not gone unnoticed and are deeply appreciated. The tiered dispatch system will help save lives throughout the city of Los Angeles for generations. Presented this 19th day of May 2015, Ralph M. Terrazas, Fire Chief. Dr. Eckstein, if you would like to come up, I want to say a few words.
Thank you, Captain, for those kind words. It's really been my privilege and honor to be a part of this project. Came up with an idea to make a paradigm shift for the department. I think people give dispatch short shrift. The foundation of our entire EMS and fire delivery system is our dispatch system. And we focus on response times, but it's often even more important what we do before we arrive. And I couldn't be more proud and honored and privileged to work with the individuals here and the names that are listed, and some of whom couldn't make it today. We got the project off the ground and certainly could not have brought this project to fruition without the expertise and dedication of Captain Ron Myers, who we talked into coming back from retirement to finish some unfinished business with TDS. So Captain Myers, thank you. I kind of cajoled Captain Tim Werfel, who had recently been promoted as a captain, to become our first dispatch manager to help start what we built and take it to the next level and refine the system. And he's really doing the work of at least 3 people, and can't thank him enough. From the QI section, again, Captain Hughes, John Flores, who I've had the pleasure to work with for the last 20 years and who's our dispatch guru, Greg Loya as well, and dispatchers Manresa, Ashley, and Melina. And again, just to reemphasize the point, most of these folks who work full-time in the dispatch center, sometimes for days, consecutive days, then after working all night would attend sometimes 12-hour marathon meetings to develop this system from scratch, really in the course of 6 months. I also want to specifically thank my colleague, Dr. Steve Sanko, my EMS fellow, who also put countless hours of dedication and expertise and effort into creation of this very successful system. This system has already saved lives. We continue to refine and improve it and improve the system. We actively seek input from our dispatchers and our field members, and we combine that with data from our EPCR system and the medical literature to constantly improve and refine the system. We've shaved 25% off our call processing times on our most critical calls. We're getting bystander CPR delivered significantly more often than we were before, and we anticipate that has translated into many more lives saved. So certainly appreciate the recognition today. And again, I want to personally thank and express my gratitude to the individuals here today whose countless dedication and expertise has created an incredible system that I think will set the model for the country in terms of emergency dispatch. Thank you.
Thank you.
I need to add my comments to this. This is a big deal. And this is probably one of the initially most important decisions I made as a fire chief. And I remember Dr. Eckstein asking for a meeting. The previous system we had the contract was about to expire, and Dr. Eckstein said he had an idea, and he had been working on it. So after some extensive dialogue, I saw the passion in the man. I knew the players that were involved. And I reverted to the philosophy I've always shared with you, that excellence occurs when an individual recognizes an opportunity and pursues it with a passion. And I saw the passion of the members at MFC and Dr. Eckstein. And it was a little bit of a risk, to be honest with you. And it's still a work in progress. But we've already validated 18 seconds on average of call processing saving. And specific to those EMS algorithms, it's much more. So it is a success story. It's still a work in progress. We anticipate even greater things to come from this effort, but it is a case study and an example of the capabilities of the members of this department and the members of Metro Fire Communications. So I'm extremely proud of their effort. I'm extremely proud when I interact with other chiefs, and they always want to bring up TDS because they're struggling with their system. I know that we've had a lot of inquiries from across the country asking about what we're doing, and we take great pride in knowing that it came from our own people at no additional cost, using the skills of all these dispatchers, hundreds of years of experience, to create an outstanding system that will only get better. So I thank you all. I appreciate all the work that you've done. Dr. Eckstein, outstanding leadership. I can't wait for the next thing coming from MFC and Dr. Eckstein. Thank you very much. It is appreciated.
I just want to add, because we first heard about this last year, and honestly, it just seemed like very ambitious, so much work, and we heard that the target date was the end of the year, and I was hoping that it would get done by then, but I just thought there's no way it was going to be done. So I'm just really impressed that it was done correctly, and that it's been so successful. So on behalf of the Board of Fire Commissioners, just congratulations also.
Bring everybody up.
Let's get multiple rows, commissioners.
Chief, I didn't get to shake your hand. Thank you.
I really like the idea of honoring the people and do things for us. I'd like to investigate that woman over at Venice.
Woman that
The
works
woman who
at
does the
Venice?
art exhibition.
Oh, right.
And so we can honor her. She's
Oh, okay.
oh,
I didn't even know about it. Okay.
And actually, we already had a preview of the TDS things.
All right. And she's doing fine sessions now.
Okay. We'll put her on our list.
Yeah, but last. Okay, moving along to the consent agenda items. It's actually just one item.
Yep. Move item 4A to receive and file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So 5A is report by the department on the tier dispatch system, which we just heard about.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chief Terraza, City Attorney Trevor Richmond, the Commanding Officer of Metro Fire Communications. If I could offer just one additional insight on TDS before I get into my presentation. One of the things that I try and do at MFC is look out for the landmines that could potentially destroy a project of this magnitude. And in my research and looking for those and reviewing the many cautionary tales that are out there of large technology project failures, and there are many of those, one common theme emerged among those failures, and that was the failure to consider end-user analysis. And one of the hallmarks of the TDS project was that the end users were involved in building TDS. So I'm confident that going into the future, that TDS will be successful. So with that, I'd like to just basically review a little bit of the board report. A lot of things have already been stated about the successes of TDS, but I want to return kind of to the project and what our original objectives were. You've heard stated that we originally wanted to come up with a system that reduced call processing times. So we were able to do that, and based upon our assessment, the data shows that across all EMS incidents, we're realizing an approximate 18-second call processing time savings, and that's very significant. One of the other objectives that we looked to achieve was to reduce the amount of over-triage. Over-triage is when we send too many resources to a given incident that may not necessitate that amount of resources. So with the combination of the EPCR data and the data that we've received at MFC through our MIS section, we're able to evaluate what types of calls we're getting, what types of resources, and we've been able to reduce that on those certain types of calls that required it. And in fact, we have anecdotal cases right now of where we've reduced the amount of resources responding to incidents, thereby keeping those resources available to respond to other incidents. So that's significant, and that ultimately helped with overall department response times. The third objective was to improve the times to bystander CPR. As stated in the board report, the American Heart Association indicates that bystander CPR is a significant factor in the chain of survival for people suffering from a cardiac arrest. And with the reconfiguration of how we communicate with the 911 caller on those critical incidents, we have we've reduced the barriers to direction of that bystander CPR, and now we have in some cases we've heard from the field where resources are saying, yeah, they were doing CPR when we arrived on scene. We weren't used to that. So we're seeing that's effective right now. The fourth objective was to improve the 911 caller experience. In my discussions with some of the dispatchers, one common thing that always kept coming up was a lot of the dispatchers felt that they were arguing with people on the phone, because people on the phone would ask often, hey, when are you going to dispatch a resource? And the dispatcher would say, well, I need to ask several more questions before I can dispatch. And with the new system, a reduction in anxiety is experienced by a lot of the dispatchers, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback because now in those critical calls, they're able to dispatch quicker. And then the last one was to develop a system that was scalable and flexible. You know, as we evolve as an EMS agency, we need to have a system that can evolve with us. And so because this is a system built by us, it has that flexibility and that scalability already built into it. So in conclusion, I would say that the TDS project right now at the first quarter is a tremendous success, and our feelings moving into the next year, the next quarter, are very positive. And we continue to make changes to the dispatch algorithms. Last week we made changes to over 30 dispatch algorithms, and we're evaluating the data from those changes right now. So with that, I'll take any questions.
A couple quick questions for you. First of all, just to echo the comments, I think this is a huge step forward for us, and congratulations again to everybody who's worked on this. It's been great to see all the new stuff coming out there and being put into operation. In the report you mentioned that it's going to require TDS will require a level of ongoing support and maintenance, and we're looking at determining what a budget might look like. So that I think one of the upshots of us having our own system is, of course, that we now have sole responsibility for that system, which is obviously there's a lot of pros to that, but it also is going to require us to have a sufficient budget and staffing assigned to it. So when do you think we will get a sense of what that kind of ongoing commitment is going to look like?
So we are working on that staff report right now, and that's a very good question, Commissioner. We're considering the full range of resources and competencies throughout the department and looking for places in the department where we could possibly share resources. Presently, right now, we have a dispatch manager that basically has assumed all the responsibilities that you just listed, and that's overwhelming and non-sustainable. So we are working on a sustainability plan. In my discussions with our finance section, there are vehicles that we've used in the past that can support this in the short term, but we need to look for a long-term funding mechanism, and I'll be having those discussions, and we'll be coming forward with a sustainability plan within the next 2 months.
Great, thanks. You mentioned getting feedback from the field also. Could you just elaborate a little bit on how that feedback loop works?
Okay, so one of the things that we had set up was a website, lafdtds@lacity.org. That website's managed by Captain Tim Werfel. And initially, after the launch of TDS, we received a lot of good input, and Captain Werfel filtered through that input. And in one particular case, if I could provide just one anecdote, we had a Fire Station 92 had commented on a call they had received in a district where they understood that the rescue was in quarters, and they were coming from an adjacent district, and they were an assessment life force, a paramedic life force, and the paramedic ambulance was still in quarters. The paramedic ambulance could have been there much quicker. So this input was provided to Captain Tim Werfel. He looked at it, he evaluated it, he determined it was a valid concern, and we made the change. And now, today, as we speak, that won't happen anymore. If that same call was to happen today, Rescue 59 would have been dispatched from quarters. So that's a good example of us using the input that we got from the field and then applying it to TDS.
Great, that's great. And you see that as a kind of a continuous, ongoing part of the system, is always soliciting that input back?
Absolutely. Again, going back to my initial statement of that end user input, so valuable in a large technology project like this. Without that, we can't make the project resilient and responsive to the needs of the resources.
That's great. I think the point you make here about the over triaging that can happen. I know that certainly was a complaint in the past of, and even in some past reports we've seen of, the BLS ALS assignment of resources and whether or not we kind of were flipped as far as what the actual assignment should be. How long term? How are you setting targets for that, or what kind of analysis do you see happening over time to kind of track that particular issue?
So, if Dr. XT wants to come up and contribute to this, here's my assessment of that. With the EPCR data, we can actually see the call we're going on now, not what we dispatched to. So marrying up the dispatch call to the actual call, we get a better picture of what we're actually responding to. With that data, over time, we'll be able to change dispatch algorithms. I think in one particular case, and correct me, doctor, if I'm wrong, I think it was abdomen pain is one in particular that we evaluated based upon EPCR data and actually changed the algorithm to a lesser response. Yeah. Those types of changes actually put more resources available back in the resource pool, which makes response times better.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think I would encourage you, just to the extent possible. I think the benchmarks are great. I encourage you to try to put metric targets there, so that it's something that you can actually look at, year to year and say, how do we do? I think certainly the qualitative thoughts here are very, very valuable and they make a lot of sense. But there's nothing like a quantitative target to sort of indicate whether you hit it or not. That's encourage you to do that. But overall, it seems like good work, and I'll look forward to hearing back from you then in the near future as far as what that kind of ongoing support should look like and what a budget for that should be.
Yes, sir.
Great. Thanks for all your hard work on this.
Thank you.
Chief.
Yeah.
Chief.
Actually, just wanted to commend you, Chief, as well as Chief Terrazas, just for the fact that I think the culture is, in a really good place versus even a few years ago or a couple years ago at Metro Fire Communications, where there was a lot of uncertainty and there was a lot of grousing and there were a lot of people that weren't, happy with the existing system. The leadership was, kind of in and out of things, and now I hear none of that. I see none of that. I feel none of that. It seems as though you provided a really stable work environment, a happy work environment. Seems like morale is at a really good place there from at least an outsider's perspective. I know, in fact, you just walked in. I was going to actually mention Chief Calvecchia as well. Did I say that right?
Cavillo.
Cavillo, sorry.
Yes.
Chief Cavillo, you're being acknowledged also as being one of the leaders and positive influencers at Metro Fire Communications. So I just wanted to thank you for that. I mean, that means a lot, I'm sure, to the dispatchers and to the department, because as it says in the headline there, it all starts here, and if they have sort of a attitude about the fact that they're not happy with what goes on around them, maybe that permeates, but they're happy now from what I could see. So thank you, thank the chief and fire chief for his leadership on that. I just want to ask one question about the dispatch manager.
Yes.
I remember hearing about that early on, and I'm not remembering exactly what that position entails insofar as sort of a mini job description.
Okay.
And I also remember that it was like kind of a part-time position. It didn't like go 24/7. It was more of kind of like fixed hours, and I'm just kind of wondering what the disposition is of that position now.
So the dispatch manager is a full-time position. It's a 4-day-a-week, 10-hour-a-day position. The original intent of the dispatch manager was to provide that remediation loop between those calls that needed to be coached and the dispatchers. In the past, we relied on the floor captains to do a lot of that, and it was just falling through the cracks. We had made requests for a couple years to get a captain to do that. With the launch of TDS, we saw an opportunity to ask for that position again, and we were very fortunate with the help of Dr. Eckstein to get that position in place. Today, right now, Captain Werfel is our dispatch manager, and his day is full. Let me tell you that. He told me the other day at his kitchen at home, he's got card sets on the kitchen countertops, and he's going and changing different card sets, because as the algorithms change, our instructions need to change. So it's an ongoing process, and that will be part of our sustainability plan. But yes, he is that remediation loop to take those calls that maybe didn't go so well and immediately address that with the dispatcher and coach them, mentor them to get them back into where they need to be. And it's been very, very effective.
And thank you for doing that on your kitchen table at home, and I hope your kids are interested and randomly selected to be your successors. Chief, so it's 4 days a week, 10 hours a day, and then...
Well, more like 5 days a week, 7 days a week, okay. But yeah, that is technically his schedule, yes.
Okay, but the funding mechanism behind that, though, is that something you're seeking?
So that presently right now is kind of it's an authority. It's not even a resolution authority. We're pursuing the regular authority. I don't know what the status of the regular authority is right now, but that was funded for a regular authority as part of the budget, yes.
Great. Keep us posted. Thank you, Chief. And thanks for what you're doing there.
Thank you.
Okay, move to receive and file item 5A.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And so moving on to 5B, which is report by the department on status and disposition of items referred to committees and departments.
Good morning, Madam President, Commissioners, Chief, Ms. Ravish, and Ms. Gonzalez. I'm Graham Everett, Assistant Chief and Chief of Staff. Within your packets are the Council and Committee activity reports for April 27th through May 8th. There was only one item that's not included in your packet, and that was a report back to Public Safety on the motion that was posed a while back about having backup cameras and audio capabilities on our apparatus. Chief White responded to a Public Safety Committee meeting and reported back to the committee. That is moving forward to Council. Fortunately, we are already in the process of doing that and outfitting our apparatus with those mechanisms and safety devices. So Chief White is handling that. Our future ordering for apparatus will include that as well.